Yo, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy, King Jacquel Martin. I'm back with an episode of Whisper to Your Soul. Man, today I got something special, real personal to me. I get a chance to bring on one of my first family members on the show for an interview. So it's really cool. It's really special to interview my brother, somebody who, as a kid, I looked up to. You know, he was dominant in sports. He was almost as good as me. No, I'm just capping, man. Let me know. Go ahead and bring this brother up here, man. Let me bring up Mr. Marquette Hayes. Yo, 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 yo. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up?
What's up? What's up, brother from another?
Man,
What's up?
talk to me nice. Nice to have you on the show, family. You know what I mean? Give the people a little bio about yourself. Let them know what you do, who you are, what you got going on in life.
Oh shit. Name I'm Marquette. I'm your brother. That's my
Yeah.
government name. Um, play ball with you. Play little semi-pro, minor league football. Growing up, ran a lot of track in high school. Uh, you know, have fun in life and chasing my dreams and passion, doing what I like to do. So that's some of my life. That's the good part of my life. I'll let you ask questions. My life is
Okay.
just too much.
Well, I mean, I know you've always been an athlete your whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much an
And
athlete that turned into a regular person now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
To being a
let's
regular
do it
person.
like this. What are some of your dreams and some of your goals that you want out of life, Q?
Well, just to be successful, just to be the best at everything I do, anything I do. And my kids, uh, to see them molded and to see what you put into them, get comes out of them. So my goal is to be happy of my product, to be happy of also my product as me, just like my kids part of my product.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So legacy is important to you.
yes, I'm a jack of all trades, so I mean, it's many things
Okay.
that I'm doing now. So
So speaking of legacy, what do you want your legacy to look like? What do you want your legacy to be?
uh, my legacy,
Yeah.
I would say, I would say, I could put it one word, and that's uh, just real, is real. Whatever is real, and just honest. And that's just me. Uh,
Okay.
uh, I'm a realist. Like I want to find out the truth of everything.
Yeah. So
So I
basically,
want
you want your legacy to be, that hey, he was an honest person. He always wanted to know the truth. You know what I mean? And not only know the truth, but he wanted to live in his truth. Type vibes.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, that's dope. Where
Everything.
are you at right now?
Where am I?
Yeah.
I'm back home in Michigan right now.
Okay. Shout out to Michigan and everything else. So let's get into some things, man, because we know you played sports all your life. How did you fall in love with sports? How did sports become your first love?
Well, first off, you like when a lot of times you like what you're good at. So I was good at something, and I felt like I found favor in life. When people cheer for you, and, when you make the team happy, when you might be a reason why you guys are successful or had a good outcome, or you're just a good piece to the puzzle. You know, um, that's
Okay.
that's that's what I like.
What was the first sport you fell in love with?
Soccer.
Soccer. Okay, so when you
Yes.
played soccer, what was the position? Were you a striker? Were you a goalie? Were you on defender? What was the
No,
vibe?
I think it's called center, but I was the one that would go everywhere. Pretty
Okay.
much, I was the fastest one out there, so I was the one that could go on either one, either side.
Okay.
Just
Were you
outrun people, kick the ball.
okay?
What's that?
When you play sports, sometimes like were you playing for yourself or were you playing to impress your family?
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Uh, both. They just went hand in hand.
Okay.
I don't know. I always felt like what I wanted was like more than what other people, wanted or you know, felt like successful or wanted me to achieve. I always wanted to achieve more. You know, if
Okay.
they thought two touchdowns in a game was good, I wanted to score four. You know,
Right.
so I wanted to be the best I could be, and I wanted them to see, you know, what I could do, and I wanted to see what I could do. You know, as a kid, you just all that attention you like, you know, especially when you have big ears, you know, and
So as a
little.
kid growing up, being an athlete, getting a lot of attention because I know you did AAU. I know you played football, basketball, baseball, and track. How did you separate just, I'm an athlete to just finding yourself?
It's you kind of find yourself in it. That actually helped the main sports help a lot. You know, a lot of people think sports help in life because of adversity and all that, but no, actually, I think that helped me be a better person. They helped me grow up also.
Okay.
It went hand in hand. It helped my personal. It helped my life. My life helped also my football life. So,
Okay. So
um,
how do you think sports help shape you to become a better person? Because you got a lot of athletes out there, you know what I mean? They're in the same situation. One moment they're playing sports the whole life, and then the next moment they're no longer playing sports and they got to rediscover themselves. They got to find out another passion, another love, because everybody doesn't go pro. You know what I mean? Sports can open up a lot of different doors to college, a lot of different opportunities, sponsorships, a lot of attention. What happens when you're no longer able to play the sport that you love, and then you got to reset your life to figure your life out all over again?
well, yeah, that's definitely it's not easy. You know, you got to find a new passion, and you know, and by that time, you're used to the same passions or passions. Normally, is more than one. Um, and for so long, you know, how do you find a new passion? So, that's pretty much what you got to do. You got to find joys out of life, and you can't really simulate joys you find in sports. But like when you know you have kids, you have marriages and stuff like that, stuff you want out of yourself. You still there, man?
Yeah, I'm right here. That's just your highlight. You're spotlighted. That's all.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
No, so I'm
So
talking to somebody right now.
no, no, no. So like the way it works is when you're doing your intimate conversation or you're talking about yourself, I'm gonna spotlight you. So you just come up on your own camera and you'll be able to talk your talk while you're on your spotlight of your camera.
Okay, I got you. I
Okay.
got you.
So you talked about family and changing things. So as a kid, what happened that changed your life? What was that fork in the road moment for you where you had to start making different decisions, different opportunities? You had to start learning because sometimes life be life.
You saying you know a turning point where really had to figure out that I had to figure everything out. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, hmm, maybe high school. You know,
Okay. In high
um,
school.
when you're
So
young, you know, there's things that you're not mature. So there was a lot of things I knew I I couldn't defeat or I felt like I couldn't. I wanted to be better at. You know what I'm saying? So it really was up to me because I knew I was gonna be grown soon, and you're not gonna have a parent to tell you to stop. You gotta tell yourself to stop. And that's just anything you like to just overdo or make a decision to do stuff or not.
right.
And I don't when you're a teenager, you pretty much on your own. I mean, unless you're getting, middle school or elementary curfews, you're gonna have chances to mess up, you know,
Right.
and grow up pretty much.
So look, and I know personally, you played sports. You had a lot of schools looking at you. You had opportunities for different things. You know what I mean? And you had to take SATs, you know what I mean, ACTs, and things to prepare you for the next level. But at the same time, that's just one part of the onion of life. You know what I mean? So you have home life, you have family, you have surviving the streets, you have being black and American, you have all these things coming at you at one point in time. So for you, what was that story like for you, and how did you overcome these different type of situations or different challenges?
Or going through them, and it's like nothing. It's they all don't come at they all don't come at once. There's times when you just grow up in certain areas. You have to deal with certain things in life. You can't help it. I mean, you're gonna have to deal. You know, you might have to deal with unhappy. a relationship. You might have to deal with situations with your kid, where you may be uncontrolled. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, there's just different situations. I feel like you can learn from others. I like learn from others, but even times when I learn from others, sometimes until you feel it, it's hard to mature from it.
Right.
So, I grew up real strict. I probably was had the tightest curfew. So when I got grown, I was like, "What's up? I'm wild out there." So I felt like I was behind, and like you know, growing up and maturity. I felt like in high school and even early growing years, I felt like I was a little behind,
Yeah.
and I needed a little more self control. But like I wasn't, doing drugs and stuff like that. So my self control was like dumb stuff like women, you know what I'm saying, or like just money decisions, stuff like that.
Right.
And you grow up from it.
So, we grew up in different households, and I remember I got to visit, you know what I mean? And, that's when we became family friends through our older brother, Marquise.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. And the person I think
Great.
I learned a lot the most from visiting you guys, I think was Peaches, and like a lot of people don't know what happened to Peaches when I think it was her 21st birthday. Is that correct?
18.
Okay, 18th birthday, where she had
Yep.
an allergic reaction, and then she had a medical condition where her life was changed forever. And
Hmm.
even in that situation, man, I remember going in the room, looking at Peaches and looking at Peaches still smile despite her situation. Looking at Peaches still have tears fall down from her eyes, and you know Peaches touched me in such a way, from my heart, to have more patience, to have more understanding, to have more love, to know that no matter what you're in, that doesn't define you, that you can continue going, that you can continue fighting, that you know what I mean. So I've never, I
Hmm.
it changed my perspective of it, deepened my love. It deepened my love. You know what I mean? And being able to see, how they had to feed Peaches through a tube and all these other different things, and how she had to be cared for and how she had to be taken care of. That type of love and that type of situation isn't easy for anyone to be able to experience. I remember us being kids and going in the room and just telling Peaches jokes. You know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
to make Peaches smile. And so for me, I have, and you probably even never heard of this from me. You know what I'm saying? We probably never even really,
No, no, but I felt it when we did it.
yeah, this is probably like my
We
first
got
time.
joy. We got joy out of people laughing at us, but we also got joy pleasing, and we pleased her. We pleased
Yeah,
ourselves a little bit, but we felt the pleasure of her. That pleased us more than anything. You know what I'm saying? Is seeing that we found like a happy spot in that, and of course, in that moment, she's laughing. So no matter what's going on,
yeah,
we're providing, we're helping a release, a positive out of a negative situation.
yeah. And
You got
the way,
everybody to be thankful for something. So she got the little bitty spaces of laughter. That's her. That's her moment.
yeah,
That's her.
man,
And we all have our pleasures in life, and that's her pleasure. And that's really what it took a while for me to see that. Look at it in that deep detail. But what you're saying, that's also like what you're talking about sports. I mean, when you 1-7, you still playing. You laughing in the game. Something happened in the game. Okay, how are you competing? Ain't no championships, ain't no ring coming. She not about to walk. She not about to eat nothing, but she still find a way to laugh because she got a. I don't want to say she. That's a passion, sport. But it shows you a way. It helps you in life to find things, good spots into what you're doing, even though the
right,
overall outcome is not maybe what you dreamed of or wanted at the moment.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
so, like for me, I never had the opportunity to meet Peaches before that situation. You know what I mean? I
you
never had.
didn't.
No,
You're right. You're right. Because I didn't meet. I remember we was wanting to meet each other for the longest.
I think we're like 15, 16 when we first met. Q. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So
Or,
some
or remember when we first met? I went somewhere where you was at. I just seen you for that day, and then that was it. And it was years
yeah.
later.
I think when I finally came to Lansing to meet you guys, you know what I mean. I believe Peaches was already in the situation. She had that medical situation already. So I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
never got to meet
Right.
Peaches. You know what I mean? Because you said, like you said, that happened when Peaches was 18.
Right. Well,
So
the thing about that is, with Peaches, she was different. Her and Marquise clicked, but she got along with everybody. Like me and her, we wasn't the same type of person, but like she she's a good person, man. In that area, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Making people feel at home, because everybody's not the same, and
right.
something's
So
odd for somebody, you know. So yeah, it would have been you would have loved to meet her.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I want to do it justice because other people, it's not exactly as Peaches, but possibly have that type of scenario. Do you know the name of the condition that Peaches had?
It's not really a condition. I think it's conditions
Okay,
combined. Um, that was so long ago.
it
See,
was.
she was in a coma for like the summer, pretty much,
Yeah,
and then came out. So like it took a minute, and I was in what, seventh grade. So there's still things I go and ask Pop, about detailed stuff that maybe I didn't remember, but I really don't know. I mean, what I can explain it, and I'm sure if anybody listening, any nurse or doctor, they can easily say it. You for asthma attack, you lose air for too long to where you got to be in a coma for 3 months, and they don't know if you're gonna come out, and then you come out the coma and you can't walk or talk, feed yourself. All you can do is make facial expressions, and you need a diaper.
I,
So that whatever that condition is, that's it right there.
from what I heard was that she had an allergic reaction to like an exotic fish and milk on her birthday, or is that real?
Uh, Seafood. It was
Seafood, seafood. There
yeah,
you go.
it was a type of seafood. I'm trying to think. It was I think it was lobster.
So
But whatever it was, yeah, it was. She's ate it before. But she's had asthma attacks before, and that one just hit her hard.
right. So tell me, what was it like from your opinion? You know what I mean? Growing up in that situation, overcoming that situation, still finding joy in the pain and the sorrow of that situation.
Well, it was life changing, man. Like up until that point, I didn't find a flaw in our family. It seemed like we was going to church faithfully, and I was in a youth group, and we just everything seemed cool, even in situation with Marquise, my brother, who we had the same dad.
Yeah,
Even knowing the situation, it still was like so homely. You know what I'm saying? And so when that happened to Peaches, it was like, we're not invincible,
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
perfect.
And
Matter
for
of
the
fact,
viewers who's
matter of
ever watched
fact,
the
we-
show,
we're we're actually odd. I don't even seen this happen. Maybe I've heard about seen this on TV this is wild. There's nobody in my whole school that this happened to. So it's not only life changing. It's I don't know. You feel like a part of a different crowd or something.
yeah.
You know.
For the
But
for the viewers who are watching the show first time tuning in or whatever else, me and Marquette have the same older brother. You know what I mean? They have the same father. Me and Marquise have the same mother, and that's how we became, family. And we're talking about a situation that happened to Marquette's sister Peaches, and how it's tough when you have a loved one experience that and their life and foundation is shaken, and how to overcome that. And I know that our family isn't the only family that has to deal with something like that. So kudos, to any family who is going through that situation, and you know what I mean, where their foundation is shaken, like you think, like Marquette was just saying, that everything is perfect, and then you realize, well, we're not invincible. And how do we rebuild, and how do we find love, and how do we find joy in something that's so painful? You know what I mean? And
right.
so I always wanted to commend you, Q, You know what I mean? Because I personally didn't have to wake up to that scenario every single day. But for you to be in that every single day and still be the man that you are today, I think it's beautiful because that could harden a lot of people's hearts. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah,
were able to find joy in that. And I just always remember us laughing and just going in the room and just making sure that she had joy and how important that was to both of us, just to make sure that she would smile or she would laugh and she would do that big old cheese. You know what I mean? Even if that's
right.
all that we could provide, just being able to provide that help me in my future. You know what I mean? Help me
Yeah,
have more passion for other people. Help me have more understanding for other people. Help me look at other situations. Like I do security now. I'm able to look at a drunk person or someone that might be upset and have more compassion for other people in situations, all because of the foundation of what I found in learning with Peaches. You know what I mean? I'm
right.
able to I'm able to de-escalate situations better now because of what I learned as a kid dealing with Peaches and seeing Peaches in her condition. I have more compassion for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, life can give you empathy of what you went through. It can strengthen your empathy in certain situations. So that situation definitely probably allowed you to have more empathy in those situations you saying you felt. Okay, I understand this more because you felt it in a
Right.
way. Yep.
So we were supposed to go to high school together. We didn't get a chance to play sports together. I wound up going doing
Boy,
my senior.
let me tell you, boy, we
And
went to the right high school. I don't
yeah,
know what city, state,
it would have been
boy.
a problem, bro. We both would have been full ride type vibes, Travis Hunter type vibes. You know what I mean? Because we both play
I'm
offense,
telling
we
you,
both play defense. Uh,
man,
my
all injuries aside, we would have had that chance.
Yeah, I wound up going to East Lansing. You wound up going to Everett High School. You know what I mean? Uh,
Eastern, we went to Eastern.
Eastern. Thank you. Eastern, Eastern. It's been a little second. Eastern.
Yep.
So here's my question. Right, graduation. It's time to graduate. It's time to figure out what you want to do. It's time to make that decision. What was that decision for you, and why?
Um, raised my daughter
Okay, so
because
you had a miracle, right?
yeah, that was it. It was I kind of messed up in high school as far as grades. I just like I said, I felt like I was a little immature and probably needed a little bit more help, or whatever you want to call it. But
Okay.
grade wise, I knew that that was by the end of my senior year, I knew that was going out the drain. So I knew I messed up an opportunity. I felt like, and I had a kid, so it was like, hey, let's raise my daughter.
So when you first had miracle, I know that was life changing, right? And I know you wanted to be the best father that you could be for her and be the example that you wanted to be. Can you take us on that journey?
Oh yeah,
Because I know that you're not the only student athlete that wind up having a baby before it was time to go to college and had to make a decision. Do I pursue college or do I, take care of my seed?
right.
Or people make different decisions of saying, hey, let's do an abortion. You know what I mean? Let's not even have the kid at all. We're too young. Or
Right,
they just abandon their kids altogether and don't want anything to do with their child. So
right. Well, 1998. She was born in July, so she was born a month after I graduated. So I was
wow.
dealing with a pregnant girlfriend for 9 months already, pretty much the whole senior year.
Okay.
So I was being groomed on coming out of a messed up a opportunity I always wanted, and I'm dealing with this situation. I'm about to have a kid. Um, my senior year, Miracle's mom, the girl was she was already graduated, so she had her place. She had her own place. So I couldn't leave and move out. It was rules till I graduate. You know what I'm saying? They weren't gonna let me move out the house, and I wasn't gonna just defy them. You know what I'm saying? So I was pretty much ready to just be on my own. I gave up, pretty much gave up on sport at that point. I had no idea I ended up playing later on, but that was, you know, that was it. You know, that was
People
4 years
don't
after having the pizza. So I was that was
Look, mind you, most people don't know you competed in nationals in Florida for track. You know what I mean? In multiple events. You are an all-star football player, all-star basketball player. You know what I mean? The,
oh, you
the
was too though. You was.
facts, facts. But I'm
You
saying
went to
most
Louisville with
people
me. You
don't
went to Louisville with me. You went to Flint where I'm at. You went to Flint.
well, that's what I'm saying. Most people don't know what you wind up giving up just so that way you could be in Miracle's life the way you wanted to be in her life. And why was that so important for you to make sure that you were able to show up the way you wanted to show up instead of choosing sports?
Oh, because man, that was American girl too. So it was like, I don't know. That was immediately the most important. Like it's like I gained a passion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know, when you're young, you're still learning. You know, you have things you've always wanted, but there's things you're gonna grow. And having a kid and raising a kid is that was just, I loved it. I loved it. I love being Miracle's dad and figuring it out. That's when I first started like working and like, making money and feel like I was doing the right things for once, you know. And that's it was I don't want to say humbling experience. I mean, because we did have high goals and high dreams. I mean, we was going places and we was doing stuff and when nobody stopping us, and that just changed. Even when we wanted to play, on the same high school, we thought like we was gonna do it, and then all of a sudden, even with you living here, that changed. We're like, well, that ain't gonna happen. Well, then, graduate. Well, that ain't gonna happen. Going to college, playing college football, running college track, and so I don't, you know what? I don't know if anything could have took the place of that. I bet you that's about, one reason why people go off ends immature. They can't pursue what they want. But when I knew Miracle was coming, it was like it just went above everything else. It was
yeah.
weird.
I remember when
We talked
my
about
senior
sports.
year, I
Huh?
wind up, I was at Eastern, but I wind up getting into a fight with my older brother. You know what I mean? Because I had moved from North Carolina because I was at Hope County High School in North Carolina. I
Oh
moved
yeah.
from went to Eastern, lived with my older brother for a second. We got into a big fight, and I wind up having to go to school in Alaska because my mom was stationed in Alaska. And so
Yeah.
in
Like,
Alaska, uh, I missed out on all sports because in Michigan, up north, if you transfer, you got to sit a sport. So I missed
yeah, back.
football, and then I could play the playoffs. But right before my first game for the playoffs, we wind up losing and didn't make the playoffs because I think we lost to Sexton, if I'm not mistaken. We blew the game to Sexton. Then I wind up going to Alaska, but the sports start early in Alaska because of the weather. So I missed basketball season. So I couldn't even hoop my senior year. So I'm pissed. I'm mad. I didn't get to play football. I didn't get to play basketball. Track come around. I wind up doing track. I learned
Why?
track. You know,
Why? Why did you run track? It
because
was
I
in the
learned
summer. It was in the summer, bro. It was
that
in the summer.
was the only
We
thing that was
we
left.
ran on the
So
same we ran on the same track club,
yeah,
and it was just free. It was You didn't have to have grades. You didn't have to have sit out and we was running against tougher competition. It was fun. But that's the thing. All the stuff we were talking about we wanted to do. Only honestly, the only people that kind of thought we was gonna accomplish any of that was us.
well, for track, I wound up becoming number 4 in the state. I did high jump, long jump, triple jump. Our 4x1 team actually won state, but because we had so-called technical difficulty with the uniform, we wound up getting disqualified, so we didn't win the state 4x1. I was super pissed at that. My
No,
coach
they.
asked my mom. My coach had asked my mom, "Hey, if you fail him and let him come back for his senior year, I promise you we can get him a football scholarship." But my mom, not knowing the system of sports and how it worked, she was a black mom. You're not failing in my house. There won't be no failure in my house. You're gonna graduate and you're gonna get out. You know. Uh,
Wow, you knew that, man.
so
But I need you to go to college. You saying you had to by going an extra year or something?
Right. He wanted me to repeat my senior year, so that way I could play football and get a football scholarship. But my
Oh,
mom, you know how my mom was. She really wasn't trying to hear that. You know. So
big
I was
difference.
the same boat as
Big
you. I went to like 5 different high schools. My grades were horrible, not because I wasn't smart, but because I was just trying to fit in. You know, I'm always moving. I'm an Army brat. I'm here. I'm there. I'm in
difference.
Washington. I'm in North Carolina. I'm in Michigan. I'm in Alaska. I'm going through all these different places. So I'm still trying to find me. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find out who I am in that process. You know, went to University of Alaska for a second. You know what I mean? Was gonna play ball there. Didn't happen. Had a chick in the house. Got caught with a girl in the house. Wound up getting kicked out the house. So I had to join the military. It was either go to the streets or go to the military. So I wound up going to the military and then joining the army. And that's why I wound up in the army. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
So
almost did too. A miracle.
yeah, it's funny how life comes at you fast and the different decisions that you got to make. But one thing I can say is, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. You know what I mean? Thank God that I did mature. Thank God that I did start making better decisions. So that way, you know, I could become everything that I always could have been, but I just didn't know. But now that I know, they say when you know better, you do better. So in that moment in your life, Q, what was your when I know better, I'm gonna start doing better moment?
I say after my divorce,
Okay.
my yeah, that 12 year. And I want to say not after that. I say 2 years after that.
Okay.
So after I'm all of a sudden single, and then going through them two couple years, it was like I'm single, but I'm in my 30s. So I'm a lot more put together as far as self discipline, So that really made me get better in that because like you, I'm always lived away from my home city and home state, so
Okay.
room for error is like nothing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I I felt it quickly as far as, look, if you don't get it done, it ain't gonna get done. But we was raised like that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely were.
You
Um,
keep going out the pieces. I mean, and
I
other stuff.
think I think my life changing moment was after I got assaulted by the police. I think that was my life changing moment
Hmm.
because I was married, wound up getting divorced, wound up losing my military career because they thought I was guilty. And then when they found out that I wasn't guilty, they were like, oh crap, we got to do something. They wound up putting me out the military. You know what I mean? They tried to put me out with a 0% discharge, but I fought, got a 70% discharge. Then they dropped me down to 30%. And then I finally got my 100%. And I'm fighting to get my back pay still to this day, right? But
Hey,
in my life, I think that was my life changing moment because, bro, I was really finna lose my life for the color of my skin. Like life ain't no joke. It's real. And it comes at you fast. But even though that was a horrible moment, it was a beautiful blessing because what I thought I wanted to do, which was football, because I played semi-pro in Germany, just like you. I played for the Saarbrücken Hurricanes, Kaiserslautern
we held
Cougars.
on to it. We held on to it, dude. Once we
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
that minor league, we held on to that dream. But yeah, go
Right?
ahead.
I wound up tearing my ACL. I mean, I had a big game. I was going crazy. Wound up tearing my ACL, and that window for football was closed. So I had to
Right,
find out something else for me in my life. You know what I mean? I mean, I did come to South Carolina and try to play in South Carolina, but I was never the same player that I was after I tore my ACL. You know what I mean?
right,
Uh, so I had to figure out a different path, and that's when I fell in love with acting. I did a play in school; it was dope, but I fell in love with acting, and then acting led me to directing, and then directing led me to doing podcasts, and so all these different accolades come from the simple fact of, well, if I never got wrongfully assaulted by the police, I would still be in the military. I would still be dodging bullets. I don't even know if I would be here. Could have went to war, Iraq, Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying? OIF, OEF, all that. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So it's funny how you have these moments in your life that shift everything, but it all depends on how you look at those moments. Either you can let that moment become your quicksand, or you can let that moment become your catapult. And
Right.
that question is up to you because you got to learn yourself. You got to learn that you got to make different decisions if you want different results. You got to show up for yourself differently, and not just show up one day, but be consistent in how you show up for yourself. Be consistent in how you forgive yourself. Be consistent in how you fall back in love with yourself. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like rebuilding you, just becoming the better version. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
let me
And
use a football reference real quick. We play football, we watch the game tape. And the reason why we analyze the game tape is so that way we would be better prepared for our opponents. We knew our strengths and we knew our weaknesses, so that way we could be better players, so that way we could make sure that we won the battle. Right?
right.
So
Right.
when was the last time we really started watching the game tapes of our lives? You know what I mean? From all of our past traumas, our past decisions, our past wins, our past victories, our past whatever. So that way we can evaluate it to get a better return on investment in where we want to go in life. What was that for you?
Well, first off, man, there was levels to what you just said. I think the you get you have to figure out how to be a better blueprint, um apply yourself, execute, whatever it is, whether it's being on time, whether it's accomplishing something. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know it works and stick to it. But I don't know, lately you also got to go with the river of life too, though. You got to go with the wave. So you have to. A lot of the best things and worst things that happen to us are not planned, and we didn't plan it. Sometimes what we wanted, we didn't get, but then we got something better.
Yeah,
Unplanned, unscripted.
yeah,
You have to learn to go with, some of that is having positive people around. You have to go with life better and
what you say, like
catch,
unexpected favor?
catch the sale instead of dwelling like that. Like you were saying, like you learn from it. Sometimes you catch it, sometimes you learn how to plan. And to me, that's life. It's just nothing you can count on. You just have to be best at everything, which is hard to do. You got to be a best at being good on the fly. You got to be a best at planning and sticking to your guns.
Yeah,
And you as a person, I think it's just like you said, man. Nobody's just all the way happy. People, most of a lot of the richest people are unhappy. So
very true.
happiness is not money at all. I seen a video you talking about the red carpet on I think one of your podcasts, and y'all talking about y'all been trying to get on the red carpet, and I was thinking like I don't know, like you could get no money, you could get nothing. You probably don't. I don't know what makes you be able to get on the red carpet, but what makes that worth everything is the red carpet. You know what I'm saying? So it you could have got paid $1 million or zero. You wanted to be on that red carpet. So there's different things you think, there are different joys you find out in life, and you learn how to enjoy them.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I look at life kind of like, let's use I like to use parallels, right, or examples. I look at life like a amusement park, and there's a roller coaster that I want to get on. And on this roller coaster, it has ups and it has downs, right? Because nobody
right,
really gets on a roller coaster for it to go straight. The funny thing
right.
about the roller coaster is, have you ever noticed when you're going up, it takes forever to get to the top? And then when you
Yep.
finally get to the top, you go down, you know what I mean? And that's when you get the thrill of the scream of going down, like, ah!
Sorry, it sounds like sex. It sounds like
Yeah.
sex, don't it? I'm just joking,
And
but
then you get back to the next time because you want to get back to the peak. And in order to get back to the peak, you got to go all the way back up, and it's that slow climb again, right?
right,
Well, the reason why I think that reminds me of life is because I don't know if we really understand how to enjoy the ups and downs of our life. Nothing's just
right,
up all the time. Nothing is just down all the time. But you got to be willing to enjoy the destination and the journey and the ups and downs, the climbs, the falls, the mistakes, the learning, the growing. You know what I mean? The complaining,
right,
all of it. All of it's beautiful. And the reason why I say you should appreciate the ups and downs in life, because like an EKG machine, it has ups and downs, but when it flatlines, it's over.
right.
One day we're
And
all going to flatline. One day it's all going to be over. So before you flatline in life, Did you enjoy your ups and downs when you look back over it? You know what I mean? Did you even appreciate the ups and downs? And the funny thing about the down parts is that's where most of the blessings are, because when you're in the middle of going through different problems, you learn.
Right.
You learn. And I think we were manipulated, and I think we were taught wrong, or taught in reverse. And what I mean
And
by that is we don't appreciate problems. We don't appreciate the bad times. We don't appreciate the shit. But shit can be fertilizer to make you grow. The bad problems that you go through, if you so choose to look at it as an opportunity instead of a challenge, it's an opportunity for you to grow, to become everything that you want to be. Now, and to put a cherry on top of the ice cream, or on top of the cake, or whatever else the saying is, I look at it like this, right? Thank God I didn't get everything that I asked for.
man, yep. Go ahead. Because if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. You will.
God I didn't
Like
get everything that I asked for,
yeah,
because some of the stuff that I was asking for could have been the same thing that set me up for a bigger failure. So thank God that that door closed, that job, the girl that I wanted to talk to, whatever the opportunity was. Thank God you didn't get everything that you asked for, because you had something bigger on the other side waiting for you. So sometimes
right,
you got to appreciate when the door is closed. Sometimes you got to appreciate the different challenges in your life. Sometimes you got to appreciate the storms in your life, because it's watering you for a bigger situation. Like I said, the bigger the storm, the bigger the rainbow. But you would never
right,
got that bigger opportunity if you never dealt with that type of rain. You know what I mean? And Denzel
right.
talked about when it rains, you got to expect the mud. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate all of it.
And,
Appreciate the good and the bad.
and it's tricky though, because you say you learn from what you went through, right? But you can also dwell on it. It can hurt you, man.
Yeah,
Like you got to really be careful to not take you out the present. The present is still more important than the future or the past, because it is.
yeah,
It's not going. You want something want, and it's not something that happened. So acknowledgement of what you went through, growth of what you went through, um, not labelizing yourself, not characterizing yourself, not judging yourself
yeah,
based on what you went through is hard for a lot of people to not do. And that's what I say is tricky, because a lot of people think learning from it is, you know, being mad still about that, you know.
right.
No, no, actually it just makes you mad. And now your blood pressure up. And it doesn't, it's doing nothing for you. But
Yeah,
like I said, what you went through and what you think, I think about stuff like that a lot, and it affects us. I think I was talking about this to you earlier. Like, for example, if you have a memory of you got beat up and you think you should have defended yourself and you was in the sixth grade and you ran like a little biatch, but now and you ain't seen them since, but you know you ass now, and you know you ain't no punk. But guess what? You'll never forget that memory,
yeah,
and you judge yourself in that moment and feel weak. But
yeah,
you're not weak. It's just it was a weak moment in your life when you was young. You're not weak right now. You'll whoop his ass. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So my
yeah,
point is, it can affect your growth from there. How you look at yourself, how you decide to grow from situations. You got to grow from it healthy. You can't grow from it where it affects what you do. Nothing what you went through should affect other than not. Try not to go through the same thing again. You should naturally learn based on what you went through,
yeah,
but you don't naturally dwell. You don't naturally uh, get down on yourself,
yeah,
and that's something I had to go through a lot in the last. I'm still going through it. It's just not being happy with any result in life. It could be a few things, and not let that affect your ongoing from here on, because it can. It did with me. I mean, that's how people get depressed.
yeah. I think that's why mental health is so important, because it's all a perspective of how you see yourself in this situation.
And your perspective or yourself is all that matters. Now you're in the entertainment business. That's money. That's a job. Now in life, okay, what people think about you, like you know, you really can't care. And I'm talking about that in a respectful way, not like disrespecting people. But if you did something like it could be a mom raising their kid, and maybe their ex is mad, so he's calling you an unfit mom, but he's just doing it out of anger. You know what I'm saying? So you know there's there's reasons, you know. I mean, I kind of,
You know,
never
like
mind. You
even
had a
even
remember,
even
you
on
had a
this parenting
memory.
vibe, right? You
What'd you
know,
say?
even I said even on this parenting vibe, my son lives in South Carolina. My oldest one is in college. I don't get to see Kingy every day, and it sucks as a father when you feel like or you know that you're being robbed of time that you want to spend because you do have loving fathers out there. I want to stop this stigma that a father's love isn't just as important as a mother's love. It's no disrespect to a mother's love because a mother's love is important, but a father's love is equally important. And you need a nurturer and you need someone that's going to give discipline and survival skills. You know what I mean? Two different perspectives so people can be well rounded. You know what I mean? A
Yep.
lot of kids grow up unbalanced because it's only one side to the equation that they're getting when it took two people to make them. Now, I'm not talking about deadbeats. I'm not talking about people who don't want to be there. I'm not talking about people who will harm their children. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about loving parents or loving men that actually really want to love on their kids. And I'm not disrespecting good mothers, but we do have some people, whether it be male or female, weaponizing the fact that the child lives with them. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's unfair. You know what I mean? I think that's unjust. Your child isn't just a bill. It's not just a check. And you shouldn't leverage that where now the child has to grow up in a toxic environment because you have two parents that don't know how to talk, two parents that know how to agree. Because the truth is, the first example of love is what they're looking at is how their parents treat each other, how their parents
Right.
communicate. And so
Right.
I believe that an I'm sorry goes a long way. Whether you feel like you are wrong or right or indifferent, and I'm sorry doesn't make you weak. But if an I'm sorry can bring balance in your life and in that child's life, so that way a child can see two parents co-parenting in a happier situation, then you'll produce a better fruit. Because I hate how every generation talks about the next generation and not understanding that you're speaking curses over the next generation. But the fruit came from the tree. And if you don't like the fruit that's being produced, then maybe the tree needs to do a better job nurturing the fruit. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree, which makes me very thankful of my kids' mothers because they have good mothers, and no matter what differences me and their mothers had at any time, I've always trusted them in the midst of maybe hating them, talking about the mom, and at the same time. So um yeah, that, but see that run right along with that. See, that's not being, how do you simulate what you just said in the parents aren't together? You know, most of the time when you have two parents living in the same home raising the kids, you get a balance, you know, some kind of balance. It's the ones that don't work out. And so the kids living with mom and the dad is, well, he's kind of free really, even if you do got to pay child support. You know what I'm saying? Or, sometimes vice versa. But those are those are the challenges, because some people don't have it. Like you don't have, sometimes you don't have the choice to have a dad. Maybe your dad just wasn't there. Um,
Right.
or
Or wanted to be there
so
and the
but
mother didn't
so
allow.
right. So at that point, how do you get that balance? Who do you get that balance from? The child has to be accepting. They already got to deal with their own father situation, so they got to be accepting to, you know, allow that situation, and that's not even his dad. So sometimes, which is real hard, you got to get the balance out of one person, and sadly, a lot of them is mothers, and that's why I don't think fathers probably get enough credit because so many mothers have to actually do both. But Yes,
And
there's so many
shout out to
situations. So
too,
many
because
situations. Man, listen, you go in the
you
hood and you get price of 300 on some rims. They got 3, 4 child support checks, and it goes like uh, fair and unfair both ways, and it's all because of the judicial system, whatever. They care about money and say y'all handle everything else that's not equal and fair. You know, and that, like you said, that affects raising kids because now it's about money. You know what I'm saying? And you might want to go somewhere, but because the court situation, maybe you got a warrant, or you know what I'm saying, and you can't go see a kid just because you just don't want to go locked up. You don't want to get locked up going to see a kid. You know what I'm saying? What do you do? You know what I'm saying? So
of course, there's
yeah,
different variables. I'm just saying, in the situation of learning how to have healthy communication despite the fact that you're no longer together, even if it just takes an I'm sorry from both parties. So that way, the child can see healthy communication between his parents instead of just all the toxicity. But I feel like we've gotten so comfortable in toxicity that toxicity is normal when it's not
yeah,
normal.
it's
But you've
emotion.
been
It's
dealing with
emotion
toxicity for so long, you don't even realize that it's not normal no more.
because of the toxicity is emotion. Normally one person is not as acceptance at with the breakup. One person still somebody's doing something unemotional. If they once the thing about what you said after a few years go by and they like accept it, actually begin to actually work together normally as parents. A lot of situations, um, you know, when emotions still tied, they don't it work. They don't do the best thing, and I feel like you have to be a neutral person, and you not with the mom or the mom not with the with the dad, and you got to know that they with somebody else, and they might have been, you know, all that don't matter as far as raising a kid, and that has to not matter. You know, like I said, I don't know. One of my sons when put left with a gun out his house, talking about out the house, talking about he's depressed. Like 5 years after my divorce, and I still trust my mom. I mean, my baby mom, my ex-wife, his mom, and that tells you nobody's perfect.
Allegedly, allegedly.
Nobody. Yeah, but either way, even that's a bigger situation. I ain't even no emotion tied. Like I ain't had no attachment to her. And nobody's perfect. And that was I seen a flaw, but guess what? That was the only flaw I seen. So I was being honest. What did you say I like to be known for? Honest, truth, a person that's not fake. Um, if I know that's the right way to do it, no matter what I feel like. And that's the area I've always wanted to be the best at. And if I could be the best at that, everything else will come along because I'm doing things for all the right reasons. Anytime I do something, or I want to be able to, you should have a reason. It's a moral. Um, Punishing your kids not just because you're angry, but because you want them strong. Things go hand in hand. You teach, stuff so they can get better at stuff. You don't just do stuff for nothing. So that's the same way as far as how do you co-parent is you doing what actually matters, and that's what
And
you
I
get
think
to the kids. It's whatever affects the kids. It's whatever's best for the kids. And that's should be all that matters. That should be all that matters. The
I
kids.
think in order to get to the space of co-parenting, you got to get to the space of loving you and being okay with you. Because if you don't know how to love you, then you don't know how to be able to forgive yourself. So how if you can't forgive yourself, how can you forgive your part? Your ex. You know what I mean, and make space for growth. So I feel like when you take self accountability and find your own humbleness within you, and if the other person can find self accountability within themselves, and then create space for the differences, I feel like it's an opportunity to learn and it's an opportunity to grow and it's an opportunity for the child to see something different instead of so much toxicity. I know we've
Right.
been touching like different subjects or whatever else, but you know, you talk about being truthful and being honest. Can you let the audience know, with your final comments, why that's so important to you and why, you value that so much? Like your final thoughts?
I To me, I believe it's truth and I'm a truth seeker and just doing things the right way and being real and being honest no matter what. somebody thinks, for instance, if I say I got a wart behind my ear, you might tell me about that wart under your toe because I made you feel comfortable. I was truthful with myself. So yes, you I think that to me that's the biggest thing to being a better person is just not having a biased opinion, favoritism on yourself, or just period, just whatever. If you learn something, get better at it for the better of it. And that's really all I know, man. Like, my mom been gone. I've been out, just me and whoever I'm married to. So
One
it's
second,
like
one second,
you have
dude.
to.
1 second.
You
Let's
have
take a moment of silence for Ma do stop being here real quick. May she rest in power and love. Continue on, please.
But yeah, you just everything we talk about growing in, I felt like I was for it. I'm just be honest with you. And I think it's a blessing, and I think it's never too late to just be who you always wanted to be. And my life wasn't perfect. Most people's life wasn't perfect, and that's just one. I don't know. I know. I look at people, and I do think that's one like biggest hope. People's because of Facebook, you got Instagram. What people think about you, all it's so many things that matters to people that has nothing to do with what you should be caring about or what you should be doing
Right,
or how you should be characterizing yourself. What other people feel is like now is you, how you feel. You should be your biggest. You know, um, you should be your biggest critic, but you're most honest about yourself. And
yeah,
somebody can say something about you, and it ain't true, and you feeling shitty because of what people think.
right,
That it ain't even true though.
right,
So a whole non-actuality can sit here and affect, your motivation and what you feel about yourself.
right.
I mean, everybody says that, but that goes to thoughts too. That's where it starts. And yeah,
I
I'm
look
glad
at
we
it.
grew up with free internet.
I look at it as like being truthful sets you free. And I think sometimes people aren't truthful because they're thinking they're protecting the other person, when actually you're only causing more harm by not being honest. Whether that's growing up in family being honest, you know what I mean, about situations where that's a relationship or where that's just being honest with yourself. I think sometimes we cover up and mask it because we don't want to be honest. Because when you have to be honest, you have to be accountable for what you're being honest about. And responsibility is the ability to respond. And the question is, will you respond? And a lot of people don't want to be responsible for their actions. They'll rather just blame everyone else.
Hmm.
I'm happy to have you on the show. If people want to find you on Instagram, Facebook, how could they find you real quick?
I ain't nowhere, man. Y'all can't find me.
Cool. Uh, if you want to
Uh,
follow the
um,
show,
no, I'm just back starting all that to be honest with you. But I
it's all.
mean,
Well,
it's really like,
we'll tag them. We'll tag them at the end of the show. So if they want to find you when you get everything together, I'll have them tag you. Uh, if you want to follow the show, it's Whispering to Your Soul. And if you want to follow your boy on IG, you see it up here. It's King Jaquel Martin, KingJaquU, ELLMARTIN. It's out.
time to be there.
Whisper to Your Soul. You did.
Oh man.